Right, so I'm here with James Thie in Cardiff, just in the High Performance Centre over here. James, could you explain a bit about what you're doing here in Cardiff right now? Are you running or?
Yeah, basically I'm the athletics director for Cardiff Metropolitan University. So, you know, in its role, I'm basically the head coach. Came in originally a couple of years back looking after the endurance guys and girls. And then 2 years ago it progressed on to being, you know, the overall person responsible for the whole track and field program here. As in my role, I still work for Welsh Athletics, putting on all their national and international competitions and looking after the day-to-day, you know, organisation of the teams and everything there. So it's a kind of really nice role because obviously we have some, you know, big competitions here with the indoor Grand Prix. Whereas now I liaise with myself, you know, in terms of it's, you know, the university and Welsh Athletics working in a partnership. So it fits really well, and my passion really is coaching. And with the, you know, with the talent that's come into university in the last few years that, you know, I've been lucky enough to be part of. It's really given me a chance to, you know, to really, you know, put my skills as a coach into action.
When did that come about, that kind of change from an athlete to a coach? When did you feel that was the right time to do?
Well, the strange thing is that I'm kind of unusual as in the normal international athletes, where I actually self-coach myself from about 2001. The last coach I had was Mark Rowlands for about 18 months, 2 years. And that was over distance because Mark was based down in the south, I was based here. And Mark's a very hands-on person, so I kind of, you know, kind of went towards coaching myself. And so for pretty much up until now, you know, still coach myself. So I was kind of always a coach, kind of trapped in an athlete's body.
I remember fine well. I read in your blogs when I was younger, and these reps you did 300 metre reps, and you were doing like minute recoveries, and I used to try and match those times and stuff. So back then you were planning what to be, as I call it, your theories, your kind of philosophy and stuff. So
I you know, my books on my shelf show that, you know, I've always done, you know, a lot of reading, background reading, and always been a bit of a student of the sport. That's what we were both saying. That's one of the Bibles of it. So you can see by the, you know,
it's been used very well.
It's been read. But yeah, so I've always studied the sport. I always say I've been a student of the sport, and so I was very lucky along my journey also to help some athletes that I was training alongside, you know, alongside the coaches that were looking after them. Matt Thompson, who went on to go to Oklahoma State, and he was, you know, someone that trained with me that I kind of mentored more rather than coached. Jimmy Watkins, who was coached by Arwin Davis, but we linked in. It was more of a mentoring thing that, you know, I didn't coach him, but kind of helping people on a day-to-day basis, which sometimes coaching is all about that, as opposed to just the schedule or the running part. There's a whole side of, you know, the psychology part and just making sure people are happy. And then it's actually Dave Bishop that approached me back in 2008. You know, he was down here. He had a few injuries. He'd stalled a little bit, and he basically just said, look, can you write me a schedule in February of that year? And that summer he went from 348 to 345, was healthy for the whole of the summer, made the under-23 finals and got a scholarship to go to New Mexico. And I gave, you know, said go out there. We just had the discussion ourselves about that, you know, transition from graduating here, and what do you do? And my only option to the athletes that get to that level is go out there. If you can get a US scholarship to go out and do another masters or another undergrad, go and do it, because there's nothing I can give you here in terms of the facilities, setup, you know, that can rival that, and you know, the climate, the altitude, wherever you go. And so get out there, experience it. And again, you know, Dave Bish within, you know, a few months had run full flat for a mile, was loving it out there. And that was great for me, and I was really happy with that. And
were you applying your own techniques of training towards him? Because I know he did a pretty similar. He's got his pretty similar PB to yourself in 3:37 there. But is that something you're thinking about in your head, or do you think I'll apply a different kind of training outlook to him because he's a different person?
You've got to tailor it to the individual athlete. You know, there are athletes that, you know, absorb different sessions, and, you know, I always knew what I could absorb and what I was, you know, very you know, my strengths and weaknesses. But then I always use one for using analogies. That it's like baking a cake. You know, to bake a cake, you still need the basic ingredients. You know, you still need your sugar, you still need your flour, you still need your eggs. You know, there's basic
jelly buttons and that.
Jelly buttons on top. Jelly buttons?
No, is that the right word?
Not really. But do you know what I mean? There's basic things that you can't get away from. The amount of, you know, if you're trying to bake a chocolate cake, you've got to put chocolate in there. If you're trying to, you know, bake smaller cakes, you know, then you just put them into smaller parcels. So it's more about like
the cooking lesson this as well.
Cooking lesson for James Thie. but more about the absolutes that go in there. But the degrees of the ingredients are going to be slightly different for each person, and making sure that the biggest thing that I had as an athlete coaching myself, I had no one to tell me when to stop when I was doing too much. When you're on song and running brilliantly, you don't need anyone. You know, you can run through brick walls and run personal best. You can step on the track, no one around, and run fantastic sessions. When it's going a bit wrong, or you're kind of needing that little 1% guidance going into something big, and the confidence is, you know, maybe not 100%. That's where hopefully I come in and can oversee it. And even when someone like Dave Bishop's not in the country, he can email me something now. You know, you can almost see things. You know, races. You know, last spring I was watching his races in the middle of the night and literally giving him feedback straight away, because that's the nature of the climate we live in now, that you can see things coming straight away, whether they're on the other side of the world or whether they're happening in your next door. So been quite lucky like that, but I think that it's one of these that it is individual to each person, and you've got to make those judgment calls based on that person, and but obviously it comes back to the experiences hopefully that I've had. And a lot of it is trying not to replicate the mistakes I made, because I'd like to think I did make mistakes in training, you know, different periods, and it's trying not to repeat those, so they don't have to go through the mistakes I made, you know, and they can actually reach their potential and stay there longer. And
so I was watching you today. You were coaching, actually yesterday was it? Oh, today no. You're coaching some university athletes as well. So like you've got quite a varied job down here. But do you see yourself moving into a kind of a more coaching focused role, like in terms of just doing that full time in the future, or is it?
That's the dream role. I mean, like, you know, there's so many, you know, great coaches out there, and I've always appreciated that. Majority of it's volunteer based, and most of my time, you know, we're going to be out training in a minute at 10 by 6. You know, I not getting paid for that. This is in my own time. You know, I've got a wife at home. I've got you know, an almost 2-year-old daughter at home, and another baby on the way. And it's time away from my family that you're putting into your coaching. And this week it'll be 3 nights of the week that I won't get to say goodnight to my daughter before she goes to bed. They're the sacrifices of coaching. Now, you know, it's one of these things that if someone was to pay me to coach full time, where I could coach during the day, do the logistics and the team things, and actually have all the time in the world, that's your dream scenario, because you 9 till 5. It still would be a dream job, but then, you know, hopefully then at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I can go home and see my family.
Well, do you think like University of Uwick can maybe kind of support that, your coaching that way, or do you feel like, because I know Loughborough in the olden days used to have a lot of support behind like George Gandy behind his theories and his methods and stuff, and they obviously looked after him. Do you think that Uwick will do a similar thing towards yourself in the future?
The climate is. It's a tough financial climate at the moment. You know, my role at university, you know, is looking after the whole track and field team.
You're very busy.
You know, and I've taken the responsibility I always have as the endurance team over the last, you know, 4 years or so. So looking after, you know, the cross country male and female teams and the endurance runners. But then it's the coordination with the British Universities champs, indoors, outdoors, with the whole of the team of coaches we have, and then also part of my role here is actually lecturing. Which you saw this morning.
I saw that.
Shouted at me. I thought you were a student at one point. So
I got bullied.
If you look at him now, he does actually look a bit like a student.
I've got my beard, I've got my hat on.
So a couple of rogue students crossed a pole vault bed, pole vault runway where we had Holly Bleasdale on. So I just saw red and was like, look guys, you've got to be careful.
I almost cried.
But I told Matt off. But so it's one of these things that it would be the ideal scenario. But I enjoy things like lecturing. It's another thing, you know, feather in my bow, and I've enjoyed it. But if someone was to turn around to me tomorrow and say, right, we can pay your wages to coach and look after the university team just in endurance, I'd
do that straight away. In terms of your own running and stuff, I've looked at the Power of 10 recently, and I know you've kind of been diminishing your kind of times year by year, but that's only because probably like you're putting less time into it and putting more time to your work. Do you have any ambitions at all with your own training, or do you think?
I think that I was out for a run the other day with someone that asked, you know, how do you cope with like getting slower? But it's kind of one of these things that once you know, if you've been on a journey, and like it's one of these things that you know, I've been very fortunate to have got, you know, to places, or you know, and
world champs fourth place, was it? Or?
Fourth in the world champs.
It's not bad.
European and Commonwealth finalist. So things went well, but I kind of got there, but never stayed there quite as long as I wanted to, and never quite made the next jump. And that's partly where my burning ambition with the athletes I've got is to get them there,
Yes.
and for them to go better than I did.
Yeah.
Because you always know what you can do as an athlete, but if you can take someone further than they all believe, or anyone around them believes, then that would be unbelievable. And the only one I didn't go to was the Olympics, which I missed out by about 0.8 of a second or 0.7 of a second in 04, and only Mike East went that year. And so I look back and think, that's almost putting your arm out and looking at the end of your fingertips, and that's the difference between fulfilling your kind of ambition and not. But I like setting challenges. I was working full time for 2 years, with a baby on the way, with coaching commitments, and everything else going on. And I made the final in Delhi. And that to myself, and I got myself in unbelievable shape. And you give yourself a pat on the back. So I think if you know what you're going through, and you know how much time you have and commitments, and it's even when I do a session, I'll be with the guys tonight, training with them tonight. And I'll be realistic about, it's not going to be, I'm not going to set the world light tonight. But I know, what I've done today, and I'll tick that off as as a session, and I still enjoy it. When I stop enjoying it, and when I stop being able to contribute to the sessions around my guys and the girls, I pace them a lot and look after them in training. And where, say for example, your normal coach might be at the start of the run session, and then then they see them come round. Once I actually get to run with them and actually see them and shout at them during the session, and kind of monitor it and pull people from sessions, and see their faces in between recovery as well. I'm still fortunate that I'm towards the front of the group. But I can still see people when they're coming across the line, and make calls and ask them how they're feeling in between recovery. Because you're doing 3 times a mile and someone's a mile away, you're only actually going to see them when they come back round on rep 2. So it has its huge benefits if you're not on a bike, or so. And I can say, look guys, it was windy out there today, because I felt the wind. Or I know where we are in the training phase, and I'm saying your legs are tired, because I know my legs are tired as well. So
do you think you're going to try and bring some young athletes from the kind of area towards your group, or do you feel you're going to try and recruit? Because that's something that I was noticing before, like you got a good group there, but it's how do you get people in here?
I think that the biggest thing is that a successful program will bring people from both. If people know, it's the old Kevin Costner, if you build it, they will come. Field of Dreams.
I've heard that twice today.
Paul
Walker said it twice.
But I honestly believe that success breeds success, and people want to come and be part of success. It's no accident that after Dave Bishop, Tom Marshall was the next athlete that come on board. Got 2 under 23 medals in the 5K.
A couple of fast girls as well, haven't you? Got
girls. Charlotte Arter,
2.8.
came here as she came here as a 10:10 3K runner and a 4:45 1500-meter runner. Last year she got silver in the UK senior indoor 3K, 3K 15. Sorry, silver at the under 23s outdoors. She got her England best. She ran 4:18. She won Bucks indoors. And to see that
under
journey
your
from
guidance
her
as well,
coming in, and then doing exactly, she did everything I asked her to do for 3 years, everything, and everything, and it showed. Where to me that it's year on year, little bit of improvement each year. So she was another medalist. Adam Bitchell came on board in his first year here, and huge progressions. Ran 13:57 in his second year here, 12th in the European under 23s, bottom age, 3:43 for 1500 that year, and medalist, multiple medalists in the under 20s and under 23 champs, and then Jan Thomas, under 23 silver medalist over 1500. And those guys, they've gone out to the States now. And they're having a great time doing their masters out there. And for me to look at them and go, they came into the program and left as national medalists. And now they're sunning themselves. And I'm here in the rain and cold, not bitter.
Right, James, that's a great interview there. Thanks for letting us do that, and we'll speak to you soon, hopefully.
Absolute pleasure. Here's to 2013. Cheers.